So, hello also to our viewers on YouTube, and welcome to the NFDI talk. My name is Kurt Wilges, and I will moderate today's session. The talk itself will be live streamed. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I have to change something here. Just a second. Give me a second. There is some technical problem here. Please have a second. There was a loop. So we are back on track. Okay, so the talk will be live streamed and saved on YouTube channel, so you will also be able to watch it afterwards. After the talk, we invite you to ask questions and to discuss the topics. This interactive part will not be recorded and also not be streamed to YouTube. So in today's talk, Michaela Leštáková will present Founding Fair Journal for Research Data Management in Engineering Sciences. Lessons learned from ing.grid. Or is it ing.grid? We will learn. Michaela is a PhD student at the Chair of Fluid Systems at TU Darmstadt. She is active in the NFDI for ing, so the engineering consortium at NFDI, and co-founded the scientific journal ing.grid. Her research focuses on observability of water distribution networks. So, Michaela, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the kind words, kind introduction, and also welcome everybody from my side. Thank you for joining today's talk, and thank you for being interested in our work in ing.grid. Today I will be talking about the journal kind of from two perspectives. First, I will talk about what the journal is, kind of why did we decide to start a new journal for research data management in engineering sciences. And in the second part of my talk, I will dive a bit into the topic of kind of what our experience was when founding the journal. It's been 5 years since we first started thinking about starting this journal, so I think that it's definitely a good time to talk about what our experience was, and maybe some of you are also interested in scientific journal, scientific publishing, or even are in the process of establishing a journal. Then of course I will be very happy to answer any questions, whether in this meeting or afterwards. So ing.grid as a journal, we started ing.grid primarily as a journal with scope focused on research data management in engineering sciences. Why is that? Who is we? We was at the beginning the NFDI for ing consortium, and we thought that because the interest into research data management practices in our disciplines is growing, there should be some venue where we can publish our results, our discussions on research data management, but maybe also just the research data management practices and outcomes of our research as well. So I will be talking about this in a bit more detail, but this was the primary motivation. And then we also thought that it would be good if this journal would stick to openness principles, open science principles that we are advocating for in science or research practices. It would be good if we could, to some extent, also fulfill them. And yeah, maybe we can also take inspiration from fair criteria for research data and research software and fuse them into the journal in some way. So yeah, to summarize, our motivation was to provide a platform for scientific discussion regarding research data management practices in and beyond our discipline, but also to foster giving and receiving scientific credit for work on research data management. It was also our aim to create a national and international network, and it was also important for us that this journal is interdisciplinary, but it is driven primarily by the engineering communities. This is also the ing, wie Ingenieurwissenschaften in German, in the name of ing.grid. That's kind of how the name can be explained, or how the name came to be. And to just show you at a glance the most important characteristics of ing.grid that we decided for in order to fulfill these aims that we set for ourselves were these 5 points here. So we decided, or it was very important for us, that ing.grid is a diamond open access journal, so there are no APCs. Secondly, it was very important for us that the peer review is open. Nothing happens behind closed doors. We can see reviewer comments. We can see the entire review discussion. I will show you later what this looks like in detail. Open data and code. So stressing that data and code are important part of research, and we also provide a platform for publishing those or for publishing descriptors of these data and code. Then a little bit more on the infrastructure side, we wanted to be an independent journal, so we are not under Elsevier or not under Springer, but we are hosted by TU Darmstadt University Library, and we are running on an open source platform, Janeway. And of course, it's important to not just kind of live inside our bubble in the NFDI Inc., but to be open to other national and international experts that we try to involve in our editorial board. So what are the topics of ing.grid and who are the addressees? Topics are quite broad. In fact, we didn't want to say that you can, I don't know, only publish research data management practices or workflows or so, but we are very open for many different, even interdisciplinary publications regarding data literacy. So how can we teach research data management practices? Data infrastructure, how do we provide good research data management infrastructure or data infrastructure? What are some concepts there? Data governance is also an important topic, and you can see that this is something that actually does go beyond engineering sciences, but it should always have relevance for the engineering sciences. Data economics, data ethics, data management software, and data sets. I will show you later as well how these can be published in ing.grid and why we decided to include those in the scope. Addressees of the journal are primarily engineering sciences, and actually primarily scientists, so from academic research, but also non-academic research. We also have some publications also from, I don't know, for example, Fraunhofer, industry and services, but it can also be relevant for other scientific disciplines, or even libraries, computing centers. These are all institutions that are currently very active in the German and international research data management landscapes as stakeholders or as active participants. I said that we wanted to establish ing.grid as a fair journal, and this kind of pyramid shows a little bit how we go about doing that. So I have said before, here on the bottom, you can see that it was important for us to be using an open source publishing platform that does give us some flexibility to implement special workflows that suit our needs. And in the next slides, I will go also through the other points, and starting with open peer review. So as in any peer review process, we have the typical roles here in ing.grid. We have authors, managing editors, so for example, me, topical editors that are more experts in the topic that the publication is dealing with. Then we have reviewers, and then we also have community, so any readership that stumbles upon the article or the publication. And this is a little sketch of how this is implemented in ing.grid. So in ing.grid, we have our own preprint server where we can publish research immediately. And the peer review actually happens on this preprint server. Then readers can actually read the entire peer review discussion, and they can also write what we call community comments, so any readership comments that the authors can but are not obliged to react to. And then once the editor decides, okay, the review went well, this article can be published in ing.grid, then you get basically a regular article in the ing.grid journal, which you can see here on the right side, that is linked to the preprint, where you can then, of course, always see the discussion and also leave more comments if you want to. And we decided to do it this way to increase transparency of the review process, to improve review quality. I mean, this is a big discussion whether open peer review actually helps in this regard. We are convinced that it does, and most of the review comments that you see on our platform are also very good review comments. Of course, the quality can differ, as it does with any peer review process. And we want to foster open scientific discussion and engage the community. And I think that especially with research data management, it is important to have this kind of a discussion also in the peer review process, where we can kind of learn from one another because it's such a dynamic and growing field. Good. Now I come to the point of submission types, what can actually be submitted to ing.grid. The left mode here is a manuscript that is just, I don't know, for example, somebody did a study about research data management practices somewhere, and then you can publish just a regular scientific article. And if possible, you should link to software and data that were used. For software and data, we don't offer a repository where the software and data can be stored or uploaded. We have some requirements about repositories that kind of align with FAIR principles for either of these two submission types. And then we require you to upload what we call software descriptor or data descriptor, so a short article about the software. This gets peer reviewed, and then we require you to link to the software and or data, depending on what type of submission it is. And yeah, the difference between ing.grid then and some software or code repository, I don't know, like your institutional repository or Zenodo, is that in ing.grid, the descriptor and sometimes the code and software also gets reviewed. So we have some criteria actually that are very much aligned with the FAIR software and FAIR data principles that kind of help foster fairness in each of these submissions. And then to foster scientific discussion about RDM, we also offer the possibility on the preprint server to publish non-peer-reviewed articles. Sorry, not on the preprint server, even in the journal, what we call RDM letters. These can be some comments or other types of non-peer-reviewed articles that are more in the vein of discussion about research data management practices. Good, so that was just to show you what ing.grid, the journal, is about. And now I would talk a bit more about how we went about implementing all of this. and also sharing some experiences and some lessons learned from the process. These are the topics that I will go through. I will show you the timeline when we started and how long it took us to publish the first issue. And yeah, the other points, I think I can just go over them. So to start with, this was our timeline. So the NFDI for ing project started or kicked off in October 2020. We announced the journal about a year after that. And then, yeah, we started by kind of getting people on board, so constituting the editorial board, where most but not all members were also involved in the NFDI for ing. And about a year after that, we had the first submission. And yeah, then there was a public call for papers to get more and more submissions. The first submission was a bit of a, well, it was a proper submission, but it was also to test the entire process. And the first issue was completed about a year ago, so in June 2024. Regarding the process of establishing the journal, what we found very helpful was actually the criteria from different indexing organizations such as DOAJ or Scopus, Directory of Open Access Journals and Scopus, because these indexes, they have like a lot of requirements that you have to fulfill as a journal in order to be indexed there. And many of them are actually very useful to kind of guide you through the process of what a good journal website should look like. What are all the things that you need to consider when, I don't know, getting people on board. So what are the different functions that they should have? What should be like the publishing frequency, just to kind of get an orientation. This was really, really good. And it definitely didn't only have like this function of, telling you what you need to apply, but actually it has like very practical function as well. Then just for kind of, I said we needed to get people on board. What was very useful for that was to have a journal name and design. We started with the name Journal of Research Data Management. I mean, it's a little bit of a boring name maybe. Then we actually talked to a design agency that helped us to put the design together and come up with a name. And I have to say, we were not only very happy with that, but it also helped us to have like, along with the concept that we already had at that point, to have something that's very tangible and that really helped us to get people on board. I mentioned previously that it was important for us to have an open source publishing platform and environment. And the University Library of Darmstadt, together with the Janeway team, were really great in supporting us with that. Yeah, so the University Library is very open for, or very kind of in favor of open access publishing and independent publishing. And that's why they already had some previous collaboration with Janeway for some other journals. And it was quite exciting for us, I think, especially now. I mean, this comic that you see here, it's about time for Halloween, so I included it on the slides. But it was a really good experience because we had this idea with the preprint server and with the open peer review. At the time when we started, it wasn't like there weren't so many journals that were doing it. Now there are more and more. It's becoming quite mainstream, actually. But back then it wasn't the case, and they had to rework their entire platform for our benefit, basically. Of course, now other journals can use it as well, but it was really great that we had that option and the flexibility to do things exactly as we wanted. Sometimes it was connected with a bit more waiting time, but I think overall it was a good decision. especially every time I submit an article now to something with editorial manager. I'm sure I'm not the only one that had like pretty terrible experiences there as well. So I think having something that's more open source in this case is also a very good thing. Good. I have already talked a little bit about the peer review process in ing.grid. This is just to show you what it looks like. On the left, you can see the preprint platform where you would upload your PDF, and that gets published within a couple of days. Usually it takes us up to some 3 working days to publish it. And then on the right side, you can see what it looks like when the article actually gets published, where we have all the important metadata about the article there, and the links back to the preprint server. Good. I think I already went about these aims or our motivation for the open peer review process. We actually were planning to do a study of our preprint comments to see like how many good comments we have and so on, to be able to actually quantify this, but we don't have the results quite yet. So I'm sure it will be quite interesting to see once they are there. Then I talked about the editorial board, and I did say that many of the editorial board members are from the NFDI for ing. We do consider this a bit of a problem because then we're kind of in our own bubble. We are trying to change this and reach also more international editors. We do have some though, so I think it's about yeah, a quarter of the names that are from outside of the NFDI for ing. It's not that many, so we would definitely appreciate if it was more, because I think in some countries, I mean, there's the RDA, for example, where we have Gretchen Green, who is also active in the RDA, Research Data Alliance, and she's also active, or she's working in NIST, which is very good. And she's also a very active reviewer, a very active editor. And I think that's really great when people from other places also know about the journal, and then also by extension know about the work in the NFDI and NFDI for ing. We also had some discussions all throughout about licensing. How do we want to license content published in ing.grid? And yeah, we are using CC BY licenses, and we require data and software. That is, if you want to publish a software descriptor or data descriptor in ing.grid, then we also require you to have it uploaded in a repository that offers these open licenses. And moreover, we also foster openness by design through the template that we are also continuously developing. I mean, some of the things that you see here are quite basic, that obviously every template should have, but we have some differences to conventional PDFs or conventional articles that definitely we do take care to also include reviewer names if they are public, including the org IDs if they have provided them, and licensing information. And then, of course, we require to link data and software if they were used or referenced in the article. Good. Then regarding financing, I would like to go a little bit into the topic, because we also did decide that we want to make our financing transparent of the journal. Right now, as I said previously, we are a Diamond Open Access journal, so this means that the articles are freely available for everyone to read, share, and redistribute, and there are no fees for the author, their university, or their funding agency to publish the article. And so then how is ing.grid financed? We finance the personnel through the project. This was a part of the project proposal. And we also get publication support, and it is quite a lot of support through the university library, as I have previously said. And then we do have some maintenance costs for running the preprint server, hosting costs, and XML conversion per article, but these are not so high. We do think, or well, not think, actually, it is very important for us to think about sustainable long-term financing, and that's what we are currently also discussing in the editorial board team about how to assure this. Good. Then I did touch upon the topic of indexing, and I did mention that different indexing associations have different requirements in order for you to have your journal indexed there. And yeah, most of them are about information that you have to provide about the journal on the website, or things like ISSN, to have a good quality control process. Or in the case of DOAJ, you actually also have to have some, fulfill some licensing requirements and copyright requirements. And then, of course, you have to show that you have enough articles, so publication history, and yeah, regular publication activity. And we are applying for both DOAJ and Scopus currently, and we fulfill most of those criteria at this point. The only thing that we are struggling with for DOAJ is that we do have quite a lot of endogeny, which means that quite a lot of our articles come from within the NFDI for ing still. And the editorial board members are involved in the articles, which is not great. I mean, we always do take care that when we publish the articles, they, like the editors, are not directly involved, obviously, in the review process, or not at all involved in the review process. But it is it is a very reasonable requirement of DOAJ. And in our case, this kind of came to be just with how the journal was growing, that it came from within the NFDI for ing. And that is, yeah, a journal for research data management in engineering sciences, obviously going to attract this research data management in engineering sciences community. So yeah, but it is something that I think we have to go about a bit more strategically to change that. So I think that would also be my advice for people that are currently in the process of founding a journal, to be careful about that. Another thing to be careful about with indexing is that when you apply and your application gets rejected, you usually have a waiting time of 1 to 2 years until you can apply again. This was something that actually happened to us with DOAJ, because this endogeny requirement was new, and it came like additionally after we have already applied. So now we are kind of in this waiting period, which is a bit frustrating. But again, I said it is a very reasonable requirement, and we know that we will have to address it. Yeah, and last but not least, of course, every journal has to have readership, and many authors publishing their new research to stay up to date with the current developments. So we are trying to keep in touch with RDM communities in Germany and beyond, with basically, yeah, we go to many events. We have been to the Cordy conference this year. We are keeping in touch with the Research Data Alliance internationally. Also, we did some networking in Utrecht with the for TU research. I'm not quite sure what the research data group, eScience days, and so on and so forth. So we try to be very active with reaching readership. We are also active on all kinds of social media channels, and of course we will also be very happy if you get involved by either submitting to ing.grid or becoming a reviewer or commenter, or even if you are interested in joining the editorial board team, then you can of course get in touch with me or my colleagues. Thank you very much for your attention, and if there are any questions, I will be looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Michaela, for this great talk. So now before we start the question and discussion session, we say goodbye to our viewers on YouTube. Next NFDI talk will take place in 2 weeks, Monday in 2 weeks, November the 3rd. And in this talk, Daniela Schulz and Tobias Gradl will give an introduction to the Text Plus registry as hub and catalog. So I will now stop the YouTube stream. This will again take a second.